I know some of us struggle. Have you ever wondered why your life or my life always feel like it's a constant struggle? Do you feel like challenges keep piling up? It keeps coming, right? One after another with no end in sight. It sucks. I know that feeling. We all do. Life doesn't always go the way we want it to, does it? You know, you get thrown a curveball. There's battles you don't choose, and the hardship rather you would rather avoid. But what if I told you that these struggles, the battle that you didn't ask for, are the training grounds? Let me take you down a journey today. Together, we'll explore how life's toughest moments shape us into stronger, more resilient versions of ourselves. And by the end of this talk, I'll share 3 ways you can face your challenges with more courage and more purpose. So, you guys remember this past week, my mom was in the hospital. So, several weeks ago, she had been in excruciating pain, unable to move, and pretty much, throwing up uncontrollably. So my dad finally took her to the ER. And when I saw her laying there, hooked up to these medical devices with tubes going into her body, my heart broke. This was the same woman who just a few weeks ago was pretty much cooking, cleaning, lifting heavy stuff, tending to her garden. And we got 3 chickens in the back as well. So she was watching those chickens. And my kids love the chickens. And to see her like that, weak and in pain, was like a pretty heavy reminder that how much excitement you have, how much health you have, sometimes your life is pretty fragile at the end. So my kids saw her too when they came and visit. Man, it broke them down in tears. And to them, she was always lively, a joyful grandma. But lying there in the hospital bed, she wasn't the person they recognized. Her face was, etched with pain. Her voice was faint. She tried to smile and lift up their spirit, but even that was kind of hard for her. And what hurts the most was hearing her worry. She said, if I need surgery again, I don't think I'll make it. The recovery will be too hard this time, she said. And this is from her past experience. She had a major surgery 13 years ago, and she was in so much pain during the recovery. Man, it was the worst feeling she ever had in her life. And this woman is strong. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just her battle. It was a lesson for all of us. A reminder that life is precious and, fleeting. So life is full of battles, isn't it? Some we choose and some choose us. My mom's life has been a training ground for her. She grew up during the Vietnam War, living with fear, anxiety, and constant threat of danger. So if you guys heard of it or been through it or grew up in an environment like me, I grew up in Vietnam. And so I hear about it all the time. And my mom rarely talks about it, but when she does, it brings out a lot of fear and anxiety. And so her parents, my grandparents, they worked for the US military back then, which made them like this big target for, the spies for the communist party. They were just taking out anybody who supported their Americans. And so every day was like a struggle for survival for her. But those hardships shape who she was, shape the way she thinks, and shape the path that she has today. So that gave her a lot of strength. And it gave her the vision to seek a better life in America. Honestly, that's the only reason why she wanted to escape. It wasn't easy. Most people didn't make out of Vietnam, but she did. And because of her resilience, I'm here today, living a life she could only dream of as a child. So her child was filled with a lot of frustration, stress, anger, fear, anxiety. I don't experience that. I might only experience a portion of that. And some of us here probably only experience like maybe 1 or 2% of that. So her story taught me that challenges, no matter how painful, are our training ground. They prepare us for what's ahead. And if we don't see it in the moment, so what battles are you facing? Maybe it's a health scare, financial struggle, or difficult relationship. Whatever it is, remember, every challenge you face is preparing you for something greater. So let's talk about some of the lessons I've learned from my own training ground, from this recent experience or past experience similar to this. So for me, number one, I learned to start embracing the reality of life. Like the first time she went through surgery. I mean, that was like 13 years ago. I was probably like 21, 20 at the time. And she called me like at 10 p.m. at night while I was at work. And I was not ready for that. And I was shocked. I stopped working. I was down. It pretty much consumed me for many weeks. And that was the first time. If you guys ever been through something that's traumatic, heavy, and just overwhelming, what would you do? Would you shut down? And so for me, that was the reality of life. Like at that time, I wasn't prepared. So life is a cycle. There's a beginning and there's an end. Honestly, I had to embrace that reality. When I accepted that my mom was going to pass away, my dad was going to pass away eventually, we all going to pass away eventually, that's how I was able to push through. That's how I learned how to push through, when I accepted that. And none of us can escape that. But instead of, fearing it, use it as a motivation to make the most out of the time that you have. So every time I think about my mom, I'm always reminded of every moments that I have, the last few moments that I have. I mean, we all have someone close to us that might, reach that age, or going through some illnesses, going through some, health situation. But every time that moment happened, and even if you're going through some health situation, you you remember now, because it doesn't matter how much money you have. In that moment, all you care about is, I want my health back. I want that person's health back. I hope that person survive, or I hope I survive. So treat every meal, every conversation. I'm reminded of that. Every meal, every conversation, every laugh, all of it still matters. It might not seem like it matters at the time, but it does matter. And when I accepted that life was hard, and it will be hard, and it will continue to be hard, that's when things became easier. But you got to have that mental preparation to push you through it. The second thing I learned was, choose to face the battle. Running away from it didn't solve my problem. Didn't make the problem go away. Didn't make it disappear. It only delayed the inevitable. Instead, I chose to face it head on. I chose to say, hey, this is the potential that this is going to happen. My mom might die. That's why I decided. She might pass away. She might not make it through. And the truth is, my mom didn't choose her hardship. She faced it head on because she didn't have a choice. We live in such a convenient world and so comfortable. We get to choose, right? We get to choose different things all the time. We get so many options. Amazon gave us so many options to choose from. But are we choosing to run away, or are we choosing to face something? It's harder to choose to face something instead of running away. And her strength of pushing through really showed me how to push through, and became an inspiration for me. And instead of running away from, right, the bills that you have, your finance issues, or your health problems, you got to face it. Why wait till a traumatic experience happen, like a big health scare, for you to do something with your health? And definitely the last thing I learned was to find the strength in the struggle. Your struggles are not there to break you. They're there to build you up. Every challenge teaches you something about yourself and preparing you for the future. So when I saw my mom in the hospital, I realized I'm being prepared for the day she won't be here. It's a painful thought, but it's also a reminder to love into the people you care about deeply, and live fully. Take advantage of every day. So I do love this quote by Sun Tzu, The Art of War. If you know The Art of War, the book is thick. I mean, it's a crazy book. I didn't read it. I just grabbed whatever is needed when I need it. But so here's his quote: if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So what does that mean? This quote from Sun Tzu, The Art of War, teaches us how it's important it is to understand both yourself and the challenges you face if you want to succeed. Let's break it down a little bit. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This means that if you understand your own strength, your own weaknesses, and you also understand what you're up against, you can handle any challenges or fight with confidence. Knowing both sides helps you prepare and succeed. So know what is your strength. Know what is your weakness. And if you don't know, go find out. If you're weak at something, figure it out. Find somebody to help you overcome your weakness. If you don't know how to keep a habit, find somebody who has great habit and follow them. So for me, like when I was training really hard at the gym and it was hard for me to maintain a good schedule, I found the biggest guy that I knew that was shredded and jacked, and I just started working out with him because I knew he knew something I didn't. Because the guy was willing to work harder and he was going to call me up like, hey man, are you coming to work out with me? Like, stop eating that. Put the cake down. Like, they know. So that was my weakness. Like, I love eating. So every time I go out to eat with the guy, he was like, hey, don't eat that. Go get a salad. So know your strength and know your weakness, right? Amplify your strength. Find out what you're weak at. And for me, my strength was pushing through. But my weakness is reflection. That's my weakness. So instead of, now I have people that reflects, like they're great at meditation. They're great at sitting there and thinking. So I talk to those guys. I have friends that, I ask for advice because they are great at analyzing the different angles. The second part, if you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. So if you know what you're good at, but don't know what's coming your way, your success will be unpredictable. Sometimes you win, but other times you'll lose because you weren't prepared for what the other side might do. So for me, we know that something will always happen. In business, there's always something that's going to happen. Your business might not go the way you want it. You might get into a lawsuit. Like, who here is like lawsuit? Nobody does. But the only time you get a lawsuit is when you matter. When your business is big enough that you matter. A hijacker might jump on your Amazon listing. That will happen. Your account might get suspended. That might happen. Just say, I'm going to get through it. Accept that something will happen. You won't know what will happen, but it could happen. Things won't go your way. You have to prepare yourself like that. And when you're not preparing yourself for challenges or uncontrollable event that happens, then you're not ready. And when you're not ready, you will lose. It doesn't matter how many times you win. One big shock will destroy everything. It's like when something traumatic happens, you just stop working. As if you never saw this coming. The craziest thing is when a guy go through a divorce and he was in shock, like, I can't believe this happened. Why did this happen? I'm like, dude, you probably did something this entire last 10 years of your life not treating your wife right. And now you're divorcing. Right? She slapped you with a divorce paper. You must have did something wrong. And so some people are just oblivious. I'm not saying it's the guy's fault or the woman's fault. It could be both ways. Who knows? But it's oblivious that your relationship didn't go well. All right, the last part of that quote was, if you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So if you don't know your own strength or know what you're up against, you'll fail every time. You won't have the tool or the knowledge to make good decisions. Success comes from two things: knowing yourself and knowing what you're facing. For example, if you're playing a sport, you need to know your own skills, like how fast you can run or how well you can kick, and also understand your opponent's strategy to win the game. The same applies for school, for work, for life, for business. In general, it applies to everything. You got to know what's going on. I'm going to be honest. It's okay to be ignorant the first time. Like, I didn't know. But it's not okay for you to constantly be ignorant. You're just stupid after that. For example, for me, if I knew that a person is bad for me and I continue to spend time with them, I can't keep saying that I didn't know that this was a bad guy. So keep in mind, like, it's okay for you to be ignorant the first time, but learn from that. Because the more you repeat the same habit, the same action, it just means you're stupid. I'm not calling you guys stupid. I'm just saying that's the truth. That's just the harsh reality. You keep repeating the same thing and you don't get better results. I mean, you're just dumb. You didn't learn. Time to make shifts, time to make changes. That's the harsh reality of it, and you will not make progress. So the better you prepare yourself, the more likely you will succeed. All right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard the challenges that come. Every challenge is the training ground. The enemy is always going to be the other version of you who doesn't want to make progress or move forward. It doesn't want to face the battle head on. It's the side of you that does not want to feel the pain of growth. So here are the tools to know yourself better and win against that weaker version of yourself. It's not about punishing, right, that weaker version. It's about teaching and feeding the stronger version of yourself and making that presence amplified, making that presence shown more often. Because we're all weak. There's going to be times when we're weak, and it's okay. But when you have strength, when your stronger version of ourselves is always expressed and shown more often you'll make better choices, better habits, take action. You get closer to your goals. Let's talk about the one tool. The first one is practice positive self-talk. What you say to yourself matters. You got to replace that negative thoughts like, I can't do this, with positive affirmation. This stuff works because you're telling yourself that you're capable. I am capable of hard things. So my number one self-talk that I always done, and I learned at a young age, I will push through anything. That's one thing I always tell myself. I will push through anything. I will not quit. And this has gotten me through the hardest time of my life. I will not quit. I will push through anything. So what is it, that one thing that you say to yourself that's positive? Because if you're not saying anything to yourself, definitely your brain is saying the negative. It's going to say the opposite of it. That's just how our brain works. It's trying to avoid things. So what is the number one word or phrase that you say to yourself that lifts you up? So I face self-doubt like any of you guys here. You know, this is hard, but I'm going to overcome the tough things before, and I can do it again. I overcame it in the past. I can do it again. Why it works? Because positive self-talk will shift your mindset from defeat to determination, empowering you to take action. That's why. Now, number 2, just a reminder, build small, consistent habit. Your weaker self thrive on excuses and procrastination, not taking action. To fight this, focus on creating small, manageable habits that align with your goals. A simple example is just if you want to exercise daily and you have not started, and it's January 20th, 2025, and you say, I'm going to lose weight, and you have not started anything, that's your weaker self. And to make it simply, just start 5 minutes. Just do 5 minutes. That 20 air squat that we did today, like that's a start. And you do that every single day. Imagine you did 100 of those every day. You're making progress. Small wins build that momentum. It makes it easier to stay consistent. Why does this work? Because habit over time becomes automated discipline. And automated disciplines will accelerate your progress. That's when you make progress. You feel satisfied that you make small little changes in your life when you accomplish little things. Even on the hard days, I think what matters the most is on days that are really hard and you still do it. On days when it's really hard to say yes, on days when it's really hard to be accountable to yourself, on days when it's really hard to show up, when it matters most. Right? Who here like to go to the gym when it's freezing cold and raining outside? Nobody does. But on those days, it matters the most. The last one is really important. You got to create a feedback routine. If you don't have a feedback routine, you better start doing it now. Your weaker self may procrastinate on asking for feedback. You don't want to ask for feedback. Who here likes receiving feedback? Like, hey, you need to take a shower. You smell bad. You haven't showered in 3 days, brother. Go take a shower. Who likes to hear that? Nobody does. But maybe you do need to take a shower. That's the truth of it. So a lot of good feedback is honest feedback, real feedback. My feedback routine every week is I ask my team, hey, is there anything I can improve on? I ask my team if how was my leadership? How was my guidance this week? Can you give me something? I ask my wife, how can I be a better husband? If you got a boyfriend, a husband, a wife, a girlfriend, ask them, how can I be better for you? If you got a business partner, hey, how can I be a better business partner? If you're by yourself, how do you know you're doing something better when nobody's telling you you're doing something better? And remember, your weaker self will be always avoiding that feedback. So a feedback loop is what you need, because feedback loops give you the guardrails to make decision, right? To make adjustment. You're like, okay, hey, you've been an ass for the last week. Like, you need to chill out. Then now, like, okay, my bad. I need to make a correction there. And to be honest, like your behavior, a lot of our behavior, it just need to be adjusted. Like, people might, like, so for example, if my team says, hey, you're not clear, that's a behavior thing. That's because I'm thinking everything in my head and I'm just telling them, like, go do this. And they're like, what does that mean? Like, go 10x the business. And they're like, how do we do that? And that's very poor leadership, all right? But my team's like, hey, we're not clear. This whole week, we're not clear on what you tell me. So I would have to change my behavior, and the behavior change would be, hey, be more detailed. Lay out a to-do list for them. Give them clarity on what we need to get done. So a feedback is really important, because every time we hear a feedback, it's like we feel like it's an attack, but maybe it's the truth, and it's something for us to grow from. So create a feedback routine. For me, it's a weekly thing. Set maybe monthly. I don't know if you're ready for a weekly feedback loop, but you can set it for a monthly feedback. You can do daily if you want. And talk to someone who you trust. Don't talk to somebody who you don't respect, because when you have somebody you don't respect, it just seems like they're attacking you and they're trying to fight you. So have somebody you trust give you the feedback, not somebody that's not qualified to give a feedback. And ask them, what's the one thing I'm doing wrong? What's the one thing I could improve on? Why does this work? It's a routine normalized feedback process, and it keeps you accountable to seeking constructive insight. We don't like receiving feedback we don't want, but when you make it a regular routine, it's easier. You don't get hurt by it. You don't get butthurt. You don't get sensitive. That's how you build, that's how you get desensitized to feedback. I'm gonna be honest, my mom trained me to receive feedback since I was like 3 years old. All right, I remember trying to learn how to walk, and she's like, you need to walk better. You're not walking fast enough. I'm just kidding. I didn't learn how to walk at 3 years old, but I'm just kidding. But my mom was very critical. If you guys have an Asian mom growing up, if you have a strong mom growing up, you know they're giving you tons of feedback. And feedback, I realized, was the one thing that made my life better. Because when I went into work, I don't complain when somebody said, hey, you need to clean the table better. Your dishes suck. You need to wash them better. You're not working fast enough. I'm like, okay, I'll work faster. Instead of receiving the feedback as an attack and going to quit my job or quit the business or doing this and that, I doubled down. I was like, okay, I'll try to do better. That's what you're trying to do. Create a feedback loop so that you can get better. Life always going to have a battle. What battle you're in right now you got to remember, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to prepare yourself for the future. And as we move into 2025, ask yourself, what battles have shaped you? What battles are you currently in? What lessons have you learned from those challenges and battles? How can I use those lessons in my life with purpose and intention? Because your battles are your training ground. You are the enemy. It's preparing you to become the person you're meant to be. So let's face 2025 with courage. Let's embrace the struggle, learn from them, and grow stronger. And most importantly, let's live each day with gratitude and purpose. 2025 is the year for you to rise and thrive. So let's make it happen, right, guys? Let's make it happen.